Here to keep the chase going, share information, spread unity, preserve our heritage and our culture. We're trying to achieve something that you just can't catch. We're always trying to find a better way, trying to make better dogs. That's what Dixie Doggers Podcast is. That's who we are. Okay, everybody, we're here with Dixie Doggers Podcast coming to you. We have he's one of my superheroes. He's a Superman of the terrier world. He's been on I don't know how many different platforms as far as like newspapers and magazines and TV shows and hell, National Geographic, been all over the world and has done probably more with terriers than anybody else in the world. Mr. Richard Reynolds is with us tonight. How you doing, Mr. Reynolds?
I'm fine, and I'm glad to be with you tonight.
Good deal. We for some of the listeners out there, there's probably a lot of them that know who you are, and which there's some that they might not be familiar with you. So kind of give us a little history and background on who you are and what you do.
Well, you don't want to know everything I do,
No.
but I'll give you the party line.
Give us the legal stuff.
I'm been in dogs my whole life and gone through various phases of dogs, and it seems that one leads to another, and you keep learning, you keep exploring, and you keep moving. So in about 1965, I happened to remember a National Geographic article that was called Westminster, the World Series of Dog Shows, and it had a lot of pretty pictures in it, and dogs and people, and it was a good article by a gentleman by the name of John Cross.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept that article all through my teenage years, and I said someday I'd like to have one of those show dogs. So I went out as soon as I was able and bought myself a beagle, and I paid $35 for that dog, which was a pretty good price. And as you might guess, the dog, as it turned out, was absolutely useless. It wouldn't hunt, it wouldn't show, it wouldn't do anything except suck up dog food. And I loved her dearly, and but she just didn't do what I wanted to do. So I went out and bought a show dog, and I paid a little more money for that. And I went and got a bank loan for another beagle. The bank loan was for $300.
Wow.
And I paid that off over time, but I got myself a good beagle, and I started showing dogs in the AKC ring. And bred beagles, became a professional handler, showing other people's dogs, and very much part of the show world.
Yes,
but the day came when that wasn't enough anymore, and a fellow slid me into an English foxhound. And I got involved with English foxhounds, and I wanted more of them. And it was still all about showing them and about dog shows. But I started a pack, a recognized pack of hounds, and hunting 3 days a week in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And about the time those hounds started to hunt, about the time I heard their voice and was able to ride up on them while they were working, the dog shows didn't mean quite so much to me anymore, and I kind of became a working person.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it was all about foxhounds. And at the top of that curve, I had about 175 of them in the backyard.
Wow.
And we were hunting 3 days a week and doing that sort of thing. And did that for about 15 years. But eventually that came to an end for a variety of reasons. And I was left looking for some type of dog that was a little more manageable. And we'd used Jack Russell Terriers to bolt fox to the hounds. And those were attractive to me. So at the time, they weren't AKC registered, and I still wanted a show dog. Golly gee whiz, I'm a dog show guy after all.
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up with a Norfolk Terrier, and everybody kind of giggled and laughed at me, but damn, they hunted well. And we put AWTA working certificates on them, and we had them hunting rats, woodchuck, and fox. So I was into the terrier breeds. The more I changed what I did, the more my needs changed, so the breeds changed.
Yes,
so at that point, we started having a lot of different types of terriers, but each one of them had a job to do in the types of hunting that I was doing at the time. So during that time, I kept my hand in the AKC thing, and I'm privileged to be a dog show judge, and I judged the pretty dogs prancing around the ring, well, I've been almost everywhere except Antarctica. We've made most of the other continents, and we get to do that every now and then, but all in all, the happiest time is working, and the past 20, 25, 30 years has been terriers.
Yeah, that's
so. There you have the phases.
Okay. The terriers are I don't know. To me, it's once I got into them, it got worse. It was worse than any other dog. I just had to have more, because it seemed like all of them were good at something.
Yes.
You know, like I could find jobs for them. But on the Norfolk Terrier, how big are those for some of the listeners out there, that so that way they kind of know in relation to what size?
They're the smallest terrier of the terrier breeds, and about 10 inches at the shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're also very they're very round. They were originally bred to be pet shop puppies. A fellow by the name of Rough Rider Jones bred them in dormitories in England. They weren't hunting dogs at all, but they were bred from hunting stock. And we found that Norfolk Terrier, almost all of them carry an active hunting gene, and they're good all-around terrier. But as your hunting needs change, they're not going to do the job for you that something else will. I spend a lot of time hunting groundhog. And in the springtime, those dens are pretty small, and you need something with a very spannable test to it in order to get into those holes. In fact, if you have your choice, you end up using a dachshund, which is why I started breeding dachshunds.
Yes, sir.
So Norfolk's a great all-around terrier, but it won't do everything for you.
Okay.
And strangely enough, your trivia for the night is that until 1978, Norfolk, which have drop ears, and Norwich, which have prick ears, were the same breed.
Wow.
And in 1978, AKC decided to separate them.
Huh.
Well, here it is a whole lot of years later, and for some strange reason, most of the Norfolks hunt very, very well, and very, very few of the Norwich excel at hunting, if they hunt at all. And nobody, including me, knows the reason for that, but it just happened. So
yeah, that's pretty wild there. I mean, if it was one breed in the same, and then just because one of them's got ears sticking up, the other one has the lopped over ears, one of them hunts better. That's not maybe not the reason, but I'm just saying it's really weird why there's no definite reason.
Well, there were other changes in the breed. The conformation changed. The Norwich got shorter. The Norfolk got longer. This, that, and the other thing. But I don't know. Nobody knows quite why the temperament is different, but it certainly is. And if I were just rat hunting at this point, I'd have myself another Norfolk. But that's not what we're doing right now. So we have different dogs at present, but we certainly remember the Norfolks and have a great deal of respect for what they can do.
Yes, sir. So what all breeds do you have now? What dogs do you have now? And what are you doing with those?
Well, I succeeded in breeding a good line of dachshund, miniature wire dachshunds that I used for whole dogs. And I wasn't the most religious breeder in the world, and my dachshunds hunted like crazy. They were wonderful, but they were butt ugly. And as it turned out, they had, like every other dachshund, they had the potential to have back problems. And some of the people from whom I'd gotten my original stock didn't bother to tell me that back problems ran in their line. So although these dogs were a joy to work over and just the most exceptional whole dogs you could ever want, I didn't breed them. I let them die off. They all died natural death. But I didn't breed them.
Okay.
And a while back, I found that based on what I was doing with fox and groundhog, I had to have a whole dog. And there's nothing like a good dachshund for a whole dog. So I started breeding them again. And I haven't yet produced as good a whole dog as I had. But we sure have some nice looking ones.
Okay.
But that doesn't get you. That doesn't put the quarry in your game bag.
That's right.
So we're still teaching them to hunt, and I go out and say, man, he's a good-looking dog, and maybe someday he'll earn his dog food. But that's a work in progress. So we have the dachshunds. And the dachshund, of course, his job is to go down and find the quarry and either hold it in place till you dig down to it, or and put a terrier in, or bolt the quarry. And the dachshund has several advantages over the terrier in that it's a lot more cautious in what it does. It's not quite as aggressive. It's not quite as much of an in-your-face hunter as the terrier is. So a good dachshund's worth its weight in gold. It doesn't get hurt as much. You're not spending a lot of money in vet fees putting your dog back together again.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes down. We use a collar on them. A Bellman and Flint collar is a little big for the dachshund. You use the miniature dachshund, probably weighs about 10 pounds. So we use the old style Devon ferret finder collars on them. When the signals that they've backed something up, then we dig down and put a more aggressive terrier in. So We have the dachshunds. Well, if the dachshund does its job, it's going to bolt the quarry, and you need something to stand outside the back door.
Yes, sir.
I live about, I don't know, maybe a little less than 5 miles from Times Square in New York City. And keeping a big lurcher is not something I can do. So I ended up compromising, and through a strange set of circumstances, I ended up with Bedlington Terriers. Yes, and the Bedlington Terrier makes just a dandy lurcher for a small dog, and it's easy to keep, and I kind of like the breed, and their history, their background. While a lot of your hunting hounds come from noble ancestry, the Bedlington Terrier was bred by bad guys.
Really?
It's a poacher's dog.
Oh, I need one of those.
And it looks like it looks like a foo-foo dog. It looks like a poodle.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes it's identified, but underneath all that, take away all that, you've got a good, hardworking terrier. And because it was a night dog, it's quiet. Most terriers are kind of yappy and kind of feisty, the terrier attitude. Now, Bedlington isn't like that at all. Bedlington just sits there and smiles and bides its time, and then attaches itself to some part of the anatomy and never, ever, ever lets go.
Yes, sir.
The dog will die before it breaks its bite. You can carry all the break sticks you need, and sometimes if you have 3 or 4 of them, you might succeed in getting the dog's bite loose, but probably not until it's ready. So I've had good luck using the Bedlingtons as lurchers, and I don't hunt rabbits, so they haven't had a lot of coursing experience. But we've been successful in breeding them, and we've just had some wonderful terriers, Bedlingtons, that have gone to work, and you can use the smaller ones underground a little bit. You use the bigger ones as lurchers, and they're just kind of useful for what I'm doing these days. So the Bedlingtons are a part of what I'm doing.
Yes, sir.
My new hobby, as you know, is hog bays, and
yes,
I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to try a Bedlington at a hog bay? And
oh yeah,
their style of hunting, where they don't want to bay, they want to catch.
Yeah. I seen yours, and it's the first one that I'd ever seen put hands on was one you brought to Tyler, Texas, at the AHTA hunt or the Bay Pen, and that was one of the most phenomenal dogs I'd ever seen. And like you said, it was calm. It wasn't jumping around and barking and carrying on like other terriers do. And I've been kind of infatuated with them ever since. And I've often wondered. I wonder what we could do with one of those out here, but at the same time, I don't know, because it's something extremely new to us.
Well, it's good. If you're doing hogs with them, you're going to end up with a dead dog. It's pretty simple.
There you go.
They'll catch a hog for you once, and they won't let go ever. And at that point, you're going to have a dead dog.
Yeah.
So, I decided that I would not use the Bedlingtons on hogs, even though I'd like to. But it's not what they're all about, and that's why we have different breeds of terrier. I've never found a terrier that would do everything really, really well. We talked about versatility, and any damn bulldog is versatile.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what you can get them to do, but to do it well, to have the confirmation and the mindset and the skills to do it well, you most likely want a specific breed, and most of the breeds were developed. The terrier breeds were developed to hunt a specific quarry in a specific place at a specific time. And the more you try for versatility, the more you dilute the original purpose that these dogs were bred for. And pretty soon you're going to wind up with a generic terrier that'll do everything for you, but doesn't do much of anything well.
Mm-hmm.
So I have tried to stay away from that. And as much as I'm devoted to the various terrier breeds, I still have even more respect for a breed that does a specific job in a specific place. And the Bedlington is built to be a night hunter. It's built to be a courser. It has a narrow rib cage so it can get into most places. It's well angulated. It's got a little roach over the loin that it gives it more speed than a flatback terrier. So it'll do stuff the other terriers won't do. A border terrier is built to get into small earths and hard places. It'll just ooze through a den, and it will get almost any place that a fox can get, and that's valuable. But if it gets too big, if it gets too much chest, if it gets too much this or that, then it becomes just another useless dog, useless terrier. It still barks and stuff, but it doesn't do the job that it's intended to do originally.
Mm-hmm.
So item number 4 on your agenda is the top 10 terrier breeds of all time. And the answer is they're all the top 10 terrier breeds.
Yeah.
Because each one of them has, most of them, not each one of them has a specific purpose. And hopefully, if they're bred right, they excel at that purpose. And you can predict from when you go out and get yourself a puppy, when you get yourself a dog to hunt with, you're going to be able to predict how it's going to behave and what it's going to look like. Other than that, go down to the pound and find something that looks good.
Yeah.
But if you want that predictability and you want that fitability, then you're going to pick a breed that will suit the type of work that you do.
Yep.
And then, of course, the last arrival here in Tenafly, New Jersey, was the Yacht Terriers.
Oh, yeah.
And Lord help me, that my first dog, I forget how I got in touch with James Mills, but I did, and Brother Mills told me that I just had to have a Yacht Terrier.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of doing to get it accomplished. And, the first time I talked to him, he said, well, he said, you're going to keep these things. He said, you want to put a 2-inch chain around their neck and take them way out in the back of your property, and you throw them a live chicken every other day. And I explained to Brother Mills that I wasn't that kind of a dog person, that I was a very sophisticated AKC judge, and that I bred dogs, and that I kept them in nothing but the finest conditions. Well, here it is 10 years later, and the yacht carriers have chains around their necks. They're out in the back of the property.
Throwing them chickens.
We haven't gotten to the chicken yet, but it's coming.
Oh, man. So you
just kind of have to get to know the dog and you live with it. I had the one puppy from Mills, and it worked out so good. About 3 years later, he rebred the litter, and he sent the pick of that second litter to my friend down in southern Jersey, and things went on. I didn't hear from him for a while, and lo and behold, I see an ad on the internet for one of the shelters, one of the animal control shelters here in southern Jersey, as a yacht carrier up for adoption. Of course, they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognized the dog, and it was my dog's brother, not littermate, but 3 years younger. And turned out he'd been kind of dog aggressive, so Michael couldn't keep him and gave him to another hunter who just couldn't get along with him either, who finally said he's got to be a one dog in a one dog home. So we gave him to a deer hunter for blood trailing. Deer hunter had a 4-foot high wood fence in the backyard, and the dog stayed in that for about 20, 30 seconds anyway. Before he took off. Well, by the time animal control caught up with him, he'd knocked off 8 cats in one day.
Wow.
In one neighborhood, which I believe is somewhat of a record, but
yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good record, I would think.
It didn't make him real popular in the neighborhood. So, make a long story short, we did rescue him from animal control, and with a little attitude adjustment, he's doing fine. But their question to me was, how do you train a dog like this not to do that? And I said, you can't. You don't. You adapt your systems and your way of keeping the dog to the temperament that makes up the dog, and you cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we've done. He's just as game as can possibly be, but I've used him on the street hunting rats, and I'm currently using him in huge food warehouses hunting mice.
Wow.
And so he's had a career, but it's the environment that you make for the breed, not the breed. He still has the same evil nature. So
yeah, there's something.
Dachshunds, Bedlingtons, and yacht terriers make up the household today.
Okay. Now that dog that's Rommel's brother?
Yeah, Fritz.
Oh, okay. I was trying to think because I know I'd seen him before. I didn't know how which dog it actually was. I didn't know if you had more or just those.
No, I have just the two because I can't keep a whole lot of dogs here in the city. And I co-own a lot of dogs. I co-own dogs now, and I've got a bunch of Bedlingtons up in Canada at a kennel up there that is looking after them for me.
Okay.
So I just don't have that many here, and I've got a dachshund or two down in your way, down in North Carolina.
Okay.
But right here at the house, we just have 7, and that's it for now.
That's a pretty good bit to be living in New York City, and around that area.
Yeah, my neighbors hate me.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's everywhere in the world, I guess. If you have a bunch of dogs, they don't like you.
We'll be back after a quick break.
And now, thanks to the sponsors and friends of Dixie Doggers. Animal Housing Solutions.
Boars N Broads.
Crockett Taxidermy.
Hardcore Hog Dogs.
Southern Cross Cut Gear.
Ada Y Transport.
4L Kennels.
The American Doghorn Museum.
Unique Hounding Hunting Supply.
Hogbaying.com.
Tuskers Magazine.
Mud Creek Hog Dog Trials.
well, my next door neighbor is a retired tank driver. He drove tanks for the Israeli military, and he decided that after living next door to my mutt that he might as well get a few of his own. So he's joined the crowd with some poo-poo dogs, but we get along better because his dogs bark at mine and mine bark at his. So
Yeah, there you go.
everybody has fun.
Yeah. Now there's, it's a whole different kind of deal that you do compared to what we do ourselves and what a lot of people do as far as hunting and the events that you have. Yeah, I mean, like y'all go out and do, y'all go to ground and dig. There's a lot of our listeners, they have no idea what that is. Then they also like the way the dog shows are and stuff like that. Can you give us a rundown on, like the shows that you do, what kind of working events that you guys are doing in the Northeast up there? Because like we feel like it's like a whole nother world where you're at, because we're so far down here and everybody hunts. It's open land. Everybody's got dogs, and where you're at, that's not necessarily the case. And,
Well, my thing has always been that no matter where you end up living, you're going to find some way to make your own sport, and that's essentially what we've done here. I grew up in upstate New York in Syracuse, and I lived just the way you do. The dogs roamed the neighborhood. I had a German Shepherd that came to visit me every day. He'd stay the day and hang out, and then go home at night. I hunted pheasant. We had fields all over the place. You move to the city, and you don't have that opportunity for that sport. So you find something else. And sometimes you can actually find it, and I couldn't do much fox hunting anymore, so I started rat hunting. And rat hunting is equally exciting, and believe it or not, it gives you all the thrills and chills of fox hunting. Somebody asked me, how do you simulate organized fox hunting? And I said, well, near as I can tell, you put on a red coat, you go stand in a cold shower and stand there ripping up $100 bills. And that's a pretty good equation of formal fox hunting.
yeah.
Rat hunting isn't quite like that, but we developed a group that did very, very, very well at rat hunting on the city streets of New York, and that's become not quite fashionable yet, but there are any number of other groups that have started up and are doing the same thing. But even that's not enough. So you mentioned some of the other things that we do, and there are terrier trials that are held, and there are working tests for the various kinds of terriers. is what's called a den trial that is made to simulate an actual dog going to ground. And basically, you have a manufactured underground tunnel system where you use quarry at the end of the tunnel. The dog is scored on how well it goes down, goes through this elaborate tunnel system, reaches the quarry, and works the quarry, barking, growling, digging, whatever, for a period of time. And this is fun for the dog, and it's not nearly so much fun because all you do is really release the dog and stand there and pray. The handler has nothing much to do as far as the actual work goes. But the Jack Russell Terrier Club of America gives some excellent trials across the country. The American Working Terrier Association has den trials. To its credit, the American Working Terrier Association also awards a working certificate to dogs who have worked various quarry, and that's the Oscar that my dogs shoot for. Many of the titles and other things we can do without. Sometimes we don't even need to be an AKC champion. But we do try for that working certificate because it proves that the dog can and has done what it was bred for. So if we can get a working certificate on Fox, that we think that's a pretty big deal. And you can also get them on other quarry like raccoon and possum and even armadillo these days, although
Wow.
I've never hunted armadillo. I understand that God invented them, so you rednecks could have possum on the half shell.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We've got the best armadillo dogs in the world, probably. They're supposed to be running wild boar, but they're not winning any working certificates. They would in armadillo, but that's about it.
Well, what you have to do to get that working certificate is the dog has to enter the ground unassisted. In other words, it has to go down underground and disappear from sight. And it has to work its way up to the quarry, and you have to prove that it made it as far as the quarry. Now, you do that either by actually killing the quarry or the dog comes out with blood on it or something that proves that it actually reached and worked the quarry. So it's not a contrived thing. It's real hunting, and the working certificate is a good thing. The Jack Russells have the equivalent, which is the bronze medallion, which is also, it's real work. It's not an exercise.
Yes, sir.
So we like that.
Yeah, it's really good that you're doing that. Like you said, it's real work. The dogs are actually out there working. I mean, that's like we do with the bay pens. There's a lot of hog hunters that hunt in the woods, and they run down the hog base because they're like, well, that's not real. Yes, it is. There's a real wild boar there, and there's a real dog there, and they're really working. It's not an exercise. And so that's kind of what we do on that level there ourselves, which I've been to some of the trials with, and you've been there, and I've seen some of your dogs and seen your dogs work, and it's really something to see. A lot of the listeners, I wish they could show up and see some of that.
Well, I like the hog base because I think it's a good exercise for the dogs. I call it one of our earth dog tests on steroids. Same. It's the same philosophy. In other words, you're still contriving a test. I mean, it's still a simulation, but the dogs don't know that, and they're working just as they would any other time. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. And I like the way that the scoring goes at the hog bays. I hope someday to be able to judge one, maybe one of our little yak terrier things.
Yes, sir.
Because I think it's meaningful, and the results are meaningful.
Yep.
And so I'm a big supporter of hog bays. But we didn't invent them, you know.
That's right.
If you go to Norway, you have the Norwegian elk hound, and an elk in Norway is actually a moose by our name. So they have a little thing where it's basically the same thing, but you go out in the woods with your pair of elk hounds, a couple elk hounds, and you locate a cow moose and her calf, and the objective is to hold it in place for a while. Now, at a hog bay, you do 2 minutes. In one of these Norwegian moose hunts, it's 90 minutes.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if you can get a couple dogs that can hold off a pissed off moose and her calf in one place for 90 minutes, you've got some good working dogs.
Yes, you do. Without, yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
That's a true test of stamina and effort and control of another animal from a dog's point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's something. That's pretty wild.
it is. And we're seeing more tests. We're seeing more tests for hounds, working hounds. Unfortunately, they call them hound races. It's not really. It's not a race. It's you release a whole pack of hounds with numbers, but how they work and the way they work counts. You know, it's not always the fastest dog to the quarry that does the best job. And some of my friends who have hunted hard terrier breeds all their lives are coming back now and saying, gee whiz, I wonder if I might do better with a little slower dog. Maybe instead of a Patterdale, I'll use a border terrier. A little bit slower, does a little more thinking and not quite so much in your face and doesn't get hurt as much. So, there's something to be said for each breed. But I do love the hog bays, and I do love the dogs that go to them. I want to get myself to Uncle Earl's one of these years.
It's a really good show. If there's any way possible, we'd love to have you there. I've been going for a few years, and I don't ever see me not going. It is amazing.
Well, this year I have a gentleman whom we both know. I won't name him here, who's invited me down for a real honest-to-God boar hunt. And come November, I'm going to take him up on that, come down there and do some shooting, which I've never really done. I've never really, since I was a teenager, I've never really hunted with a gun. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be fun. I think that'll be fun for you.
Well, I love watching his dogs work. I don't like watching mine work on boar.
Yes, sir.
I did run Rommel, my yak terrier, at one of the trials, and he knew exactly what to do. I was a little put back because I was figuring I was a real macho guy handling my dog in the in this poor hog bay, and I was feeling pretty fired up, and the testosterone was flowing pretty good, and the dog was psyched up, and then the handler in front of me was a 4-year-old girl, and everything just kind of vanished.
Yeah.
When I saw that this 4-year-old kid could handle the dog way better than I ever could. but Rommel knew what to do. He got right in there, and he got a hold within 5 seconds. He got a hold of that boar by the balls, and
Oh yeah.
He was disqualified before he even started, but he got him and he never let go, so he thought he'd done the job. But
Yeah, I remember that one, Mr. Reynolds. I think I was actually judging on that one, or when I was still trying. Yeah, I think we did a really long count. You're supposed to count like to 3. I think we made it to like 6 or 7 because we were all like, "That's Richard's dog. Let him just wear it out," you know.
He wasn't going to let go.
No,
anyway.
hell no. Rommel, that's when I fell in love with Rommel. I was like,
That's what you call hanging him.
yeah, I like the rougher dogs, and Brother Mills is always saying that. He's like, I don't have any of the terriers that will really bay. All mine are going to catch. So I'm partial.
Rommel is a fox dog. Rommel's specialty is fox.
Mm-hmm.
He'll hunt everything. He'll hunt rats for me. He'll hunt woodchuck. But his forte is fox. He loves fox. And he loves doing battle with foxes. And I can recall one day we had the boys don't like me because I'm a city kid and I'm a dog show guy. So I hunt with a fairly rough crowd of led by an old Irishman, and he always wants to put something else down before mine. So they put 2 Patterdales down, and the Patterdales chased the fox around this very large earth. You could hear them moving around, but they couldn't get the sucker cornered. So Rommel went down, and I clocked him. It took him about 33 seconds before he had the fox accounted for. But that's what he does. That's what he's good at. That's what I try to use him for. So that's his thing.
We would love to hear a couple of stories of digging to fox or badger or something like that. And I know you went all over the world to do these things. Give us a good story, a good digging, good going to ground story, and wherever. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter what the quarry is, because I know you done it all.
Well, the quarry, the best story I have, I actually wrote a couple of chapters in a book about, was not really hunting at all. But I had my 2 dachshunds, father and son, out for a walk at a friend's farm, and of course it was springtime, and it was lovely. The flowers were blooming, and the woodchucks were breeding. So we walked down this farm lane and came to just an absolutely immense hickory tree, and the tree is so big that you can see it from satellite on Google Earth. If you know where to look, you can see this tree. And it was there during the Revolution. It was an old tree. But the 2 dogs immediately smelled the woodchuck, went down the hole, and I thought, oh, goody, this is great. We're going to get some hunting in today, even though we planned on it. And they're both very good dogs. They're wonderful dogs. And I had no doubt that they'd account and sort out these woodchucks. And they did. And they barked, and I could hear them. And I wasn't very upset over the fact that neither one of them had a locator collar on because, this was just a huge earth. I mean, there's a lot of room down there. So they went down and they worked and they'd come and go. And as your whole dogs will do, they work for a while and then maybe they lose the scent, or maybe they just get tired, or maybe they want to try something else, but they go a little quiet on you. It's not a constant thing. And some of your woodchucks are smart enough so that to get away from the dogs, they'll actually push dirt behind them and wall themselves off from the dog. So the dogs can't see them or smell them. They think they've actually lost them, where the woodchuck has held itself in. So,
Wow.
you don't worry too much. And sometimes these things do take a while, and I had no tools with me because I wasn't hunting. So it wasn't a matter of digging to them. I just sat there listening to them ramming around down there. And, I don't know, this must have been about 8:30. And there were actually some earth dog tests scheduled for that day. They went on, and I excused myself, said, well, I kind of got to sit here with my dogs, and I want to be here when they come out. So things went on. It got to be about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and the dogs were not out, but I'd hear them once in a while. So, make a long story short, I decided that I wasn't going to leave these dogs that way, so I just kind of stayed there that night. I slept there on the ground, and still not real worried about much of anything, but dogs kept getting quieter and quieter and quieter. The next day, we did what we could to try to locate them, and started digging some exploratory holes, but didn't have any luck finding them. Each hole we dug was a dead end. We couldn't even find the liner, the burrow that they were in. Well, began to get panicky around noon and started calling for help, and got some diggers in, and we kind of figured that we needed some equipment, so we were able to get a backhoe in there, and we're standing there, and just about that time, a couple of goodly officers from animal control show up.
Oh, hell.
And of course, I'm always happy to see my government representatives anytime, and this was no exception. But these two people, there was a man and a woman. Guy said, "Well, we'll help you get those dogs out." I explained to him what had happened. He said, "Well, we'll help you." And the guy took off his gun belt and his hat and most of his uniform, got down in the hole and started digging. The girl says, "Well, I can't do that, but I can go back to headquarters and get some more tools." So she did that, and they were added to the team, and we worked with the backhoe for the rest of the day, and got nowhere. And at that point, the storm was a bad storm was rolling in, a northeaster, and it promised to be bad. And these dogs were deep. My instinct was telling me they were about more than 10 feet down, 10 to 12 feet down, just from the sound of them.
Yeah.
And we didn't hear them very often, and of course, no food, no water for 2 days now. And the storm moved in, and you couldn't walk through the field to get to where we were. If you did, the mud in the cultivated field would suck your boots off, and the hole was filling up with water. And we knew the dogs were somewhere around there because we could hear them every so often, but we couldn't find them. couldn't get them out, and at this point, it's raining like crazy. You couldn't get a truck to the site. Some of the Jack Russell boys showed up to help out. They drove up from down south to help dig, and they couldn't get the truck into the site, so they kind of half swam to come help us.
Wow.
And we decided that they were probably inside a root of the tree about 15 feet deep. And the root was about 3 feet in diameter, and we went and got a chainsaw and burned out the chainsaw on this hickory tree.
Holy shit.
So at that point, a couple of the neighbors came over, Bubba and Bubba. And Bubba and Bubba kind of looked at the situation and said, well, I got a chainsaw that I think will do that. I said, well, go and get it. So this guy comes back with the biggest 2-man chainsaw I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, shit.
And the water's coming up. I got a friend of mine that's a veterinarian that is literally in his underwear, standing in 7 feet of water, trying to get into this root. And I explained to Bubba that the dogs were inside the root, and that what he was going to do was going to take the chainsaw and cut into the root. And he says, well, thank you, sir. You're a very nice guy, but I ain't doing that. And I said, well, why? And he said, because I'm likely to hurt the dog. And I explained to him that unless he cut that root within the next 4 minutes, we were going to have dogs dead from drowning.
Yeah.
And that I thought that he quite possibly could do it. Well, that guy took that huge chainsaw and cut a 5-shaped wedge out of that root like a surgeon. And no sooner did he get done with that than one dog's nose popped out of the hole.
Wow.
And shortly thereafter, the other followed. But it was
Yeah, that's something right there.
It was the toughest 3 days of my life.
3 days.
The dogs were down for 3 days. I took them down. The next morning, I got them cleaned up a little bit. And I took them down to animal control, and I met the 2 officers. And I said, they took some pictures. I said, I never could figure out why you were so nice. He says, well, normally we're not. But he said that we've had a lot of bad publicity for our animal control agency. And we saw a chance to make a positive impression, and we took it. And they said, we appreciate your coming down because it makes us look good. And it just all worked out good for everybody.
Yeah, worked great for everybody. And the dogs were okay, and just
dogs were fine. The dogs lived to hunt a lot more years, and nobody was the worse for wear. But it was the longest dig that I've ever had. I've had one deeper. I've had one that went 17 feet, but that was a 1-day deal. But when you have to call in machinery, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you got a dog that's all business.
But
get down there and working, man. I couldn't imagine. We've only dug just a few times, and we went just a few feet, and that was plenty for me. That was more than enough. I could not imagine going 15 I couldn't imagine going 8 or 10. I mean, that's crazy on a groundhog.
Well, no dog ever left behind.
That's right.
They may come out dead, but they are going to come out.
There you
go. I've never lost one, knock on wood, but my friends have, and we put the dogs in harm's way, but we'll do everything under the sun to get them out safely.
Exactly. And you can't make a dog want to do that. That's a natural. If we could do that, well, that'd be good. It'd be different.
No, we used when we hunt in the alleys. We used to hunt one little block alley where we put dogs at both ends of the alleys, and the dogs would run in from both ends of the alleys and corner the rats in the middle, and there'd be a freaking free-for-all, rats flying and dogs flying and
blood, guts, and shit everywhere. Yeah,
a sport which we've come to call rodent stretching between two dogs. But you get some media person standing there saying, well, how do you make the dogs do that?
Yeah.
And my answer is, I couldn't make that dog do that if the world was coming to an end.
That's exactly right.
I couldn't train the dog to do it with that kind of skill or that kind of enthusiasm. It's born in the blood, and when people realize that, they have a much better understanding of purebred dogs.
Mm-hmm.
People have a tendency to look down their noses at purebreds, and some of the hunters among us are as guilty as anybody else.
Yes.
Of saying, all I care about is whether or not the dog hunts, whether it's got a nose. But you've got to have the equipment that goes behind the nose in order for the dog to hunt. And as soon as you start breeding so that your dog has the conformation and the makeup to be able to follow its nose, then you're a purebred dog breeder, whether you want to admit it or not. And it doesn't have to be any particular breed, but as soon as you start breeding to do your job in your place in your time, you're breeding purebred dogs. And to breed just for a nose or just for hunting ability is as big a mistake as ignoring that completely.
Yes.
So I preach on both sides of my mouth. When I'm at an AKC show, I preach about hunting. And when I'm hunting, I preach about conformation. So you'd think it would be wonderful to walk in both worlds, but in actuality, everybody hates it. So,
I don't know about that. Now, I imagine there's some of the people that you've judged their dogs over the years. They might not see the same thing you do, but then again, they don't have the experience that you do. How many years total have you had dogs and been hunting dogs?
Well, if you count what I did, my first beagle, I told you about that beagle I bought with the bank loan for $300. She was already a show champion, but I figured she ought to hunt. And I want my dogs to be dual purpose dogs. So, and beagles are good rabbit dogs. So I took my single shot 410 and went rabbit hunting with this beagle. And I knew that I didn't know much about rabbit hunting, but I knew rabbits ran in circles. So off went the dog, and sure enough, she found the line and started feathering and gave a little tongue. And sure enough, sooner or later, through the bushes, here comes around. And I fired away just at the first chance I got. Well, Unfortunately, it happened to be the dog and not the rabbit.
Oh, hell.
So here a champion bitch that I just paid $300 for. I filled her full of birdshot, which pissed her off no end, and she didn't hunt much after that. Although she was a good brood bitch. So that was probably 1966.
Okay.
So I guess that was my first
58 years. Is that
my first hunting experience.
So that's what, 58 years? Somewhere in there?
I can't do the math.
Yeah, I can't either. I live in Alabama. It's really hard for me to do any kind of math. But Nate said, yeah, 58 is correct. So I got that one right. It was a guess. It was luck. So we don't want to, you know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, having dogs for 58 years, you see and learn so many things, even if you're not out there every day messing with them, which like you, that's all you do is dogs. That's your life. And I've looked up stuff on you, and it looks like, I mean, there's so many articles out there where people have written about you and the Rat Society. That thing right there really went worldwide. I seen an episode on the Vice channel about the rat catcher of New York, and that was before I'd ever met you.
Yes. And so when we did meet you, I was like, oh my God, it's just Reynolds, the rat guy.
That's him. I was like, holy shit. And it's so how did that come to be? How did you keep that together? And give us some stories on that, on the rats. It was Riders Alley Trenchers Society.
Yeah, Rider Alley Trencher Fed Society.
Trencher Fed Society. I've still got my pen that you gave me. You gave me a pen when I first met you.
Well, back in the day of the organized fox hunts, the hounds were kept in kennels. If it was a noble pack, a Midlands pack, they were kept in kennels, and then you had hunt servants that took care of them. And there's a feed room in the foxhound kennel, and in the feed room is a trough, and the hounds eat once a day from the trough. The food's put in the trough, and the hounds are released into the feed room. But if you're not quite so wealthy, and you don't have a hunt kennel, and you don't have hunt servants, the hounds live with the hunters, and it's called a scratch pack, and they eat from wooden bowls, dog bowls, which are called trenchers.
Yeah.
So a trencher-fed pack is one where the hounds live with the hunters rather than in hunt kennels, and that, of course, is exactly what we had. Riders Alley was an alley in Manhattan that was heavily infested with rats, more than any place I've ever seen, and it was one of the two places where we actually started seeing if we could do this. So between Riders Alley and Theater Alley was where the rat organization was born, and it was all terrier people who wanted to use their dogs on game, but the only game we had that we'd admit to is rats. Now, some of our people do bad things and hunt raccoons in New York City, but we don't talk about it.
Yeah, you don't talk about some stuff.
No, they live in the sewers. And anyway, so we started hunting the rats, and what we found was that the media and the public doesn't care anything about our dogs. If I mention to you as a journalist, my dog does this, or my dog's bred this way, or my dog is this or that, they turn a deaf ear. So I can't sell them on purebred dogs, but if I mention dead rats, I've got their attention.
Oh yeah.
And every journalist everywhere in the world is fascinated by dead rats. They will take pictures of dead rats. They will count dead rats. They're just fascinating. So what it eventually boiled down to, we avoided media for a long time, thinking that we would have problems with the animal rights people. Then we decided that we really should cooperate with the media, that we could sell the idea of purebred dogs and hunting with dogs through the media exposure if we presented it in a favorable light. And we were able to do that because all of the residents of the areas that you hunt through, they're just grateful as hell to have us down there, because we were having what appeared to be an effect on the New York City rat population. And we did that for 30 some odd years. And we got involved with scientific research. We provided DNA samples for some of the years ago, a number of scientific research projects. We helped with rat prevention and whatever. And it was just a good all-around thing, and it was a good reputation for everybody. But the idea behind it, that's selling the public on purebred dogs through the rat hunting. And it worked.
Yeah, it's a good market right there. I mean, a good marketing example there. Because like you said, they're not interested in the dog, but what they're producing in the product, that's what they want to see. They want to see them dead rats. And now you have a way for people to be like, oh, that's what killed the rats is these specific dogs. And
yeah.
So what breeds were you using then? Was it the Norfolk Terrier then as well?
Well, I started with the Norfolk, but originally we started out and we were heavily into border terriers. We had a lot of border terriers.
Yes, sir.
They were very good at it. Then, and I had the Norfolks, and of course you have a smattering of Jack Russells, and the Jack Russells are pretty good. Over time, of course, I got a Yak Terrier, and over time we started getting a lot of black dogs. We had a lot of Patterdales, and we still have a lot of Patterdales. So it shifted from the border terriers to the black dogs at this point. The occasional dachshund, but I don't use my dachshunds on rats because they're just not fast enough, to make it happen. But
yes,
the smaller terriers, and we had a pretty good mountain feist for a while. He eventually got old and died, but he did pretty good. He was the biggest thing around, but he managed to get hit more than his share.
Oh, that's pretty good. I never would have really figured that one being in there. That's something different. Got in those escapades there, where's the wildest place that you've ever went to? Like, if you went out of the country or whatever, what's the most rats that you ever killed at one time? And what's the biggest rat?
Well, the biggest rat.
Schultz.
You asked a compound question. The weirdest place I've ever been was in Shanghai, and they took us to a slum area in Shanghai that was infested with rats. But the catch was all of the buildings above the street had rats, but all of the buildings were interconnected underground. So there was a whole network of tenements, rats, homeless people, whatever, underground in Shanghai. That was a place I was happy to be out of.
Yeah, I can imagine.
we did that. We have hunted rats at certain national monuments, which shall remain nameless, because we were snuck in there to do the job and get rid of the rats at these venerable national monuments. And if I said they were in New York Harbor, anyway.
Yeah, that way they could, if they jumped off of a crown and drowned.
Yeah, that's it. So that was another one, but I forget the second part of your question. What's the most? Oh, the rat that you hunt for the most part is the Norwegian rat, which of course is not Norwegian at all. There was a gentleman by the name of Linnaeus who decided that he was going to scientifically name the entire animal kingdom. And he went assigning genus and species names, usually in Latin, to all of these animals. And he eventually came to this rodent, and it was a fairly despicable rodent that probably developed in Africa. But he looked at this beast that carried disease and was fairly disgusting. And because he was a Swede himself from Sweden, decided he would name it for the Norwegians who lived next door. So we have the Swedish Linnaeus who named an African rat the Norwegian rat. And that's what we think of today. Now there's also a few black rats around the country, more in the West, but 95% of the rats that you'll see or hear are Norwegian rats.
Okay, I got you.
A friend of mine is a self-professed rodentologist. He has a degree in rats. And he has a standing offer of $10,000 for anybody who will bring him a 2-pound Norwegian rat.
Wow.
So
2 pounds.
I think his money is pretty safe. Now, I've come close. The biggest rat I ever got was about 800 grams. We have a tendency to measure them in grams because we do the work for the laboratory.
Yes, sir. We use grams a lot for other stuff.
But 800 grams is about as close as I've ever come to the 2-pound limit. And there may be rats that make the 2-pound limit, but I've never heard of one being caught. And I've certainly never caught one.
And for the listeners out there, 800 grams is equal to 1.76 pounds.
Yeah, that's
a big rat.
1 3/4 pound of a rat. That's a big ass rat.
That's a good sized rat. That's probably from tip of the nose to tip of the tail, you're probably looking at 23, 24 inches.
Oh, Lord, that's as big as a possum. I mean, like the length, just about as a small possum. Wow.
Small possum, very small possum.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which I mean, like our possums and coons here, they're not very big. Like a large raccoon here would be 15 pounds is probably going to be on a good sized coon. 20 pounds is huge.
I've only ever caught one that was 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any teeth hardly besides his canines, and they were flat.
Yep.
And he was getting white on the top of his head.
But yeah, everything down here is a little smaller. So, but even though, I mean, still that's a huge rat. That's a
well, they don't live very long, they 2-3 years, and
I didn't know that.
Well, you do the mathematics of rats. You wonder why you can't get rid of rats. All right, so here's how it works. You have dogs and you breed dogs, and then they come in season. A female rat, a doe, comes in season every 3 days.
Good Lord.
And 3 days for each season, and they're going to get bred. Period. It's not if, it's when and how often. The gestation period is 21 days. The average litter is 10 to 12, and the mortality is less than 10%. So,
Wow.
You've produced a lot of rats. Now, they reach sexual maturity at 5 weeks old, and the whole process starts all over again. So when you're talking about rat numbers, you're talking about one pair of rats today. All things being equal, a year from now, you're going to have 24,000 rats. And that's exactly why they've persisted since colonial times in New York and thrived is not because they're so difficult to kill. They're easy to kill. But the law of numbers and their reproduction guarantees their survival.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That's that I didn't know those numbers at all. I knew that they came in season pretty frequently, but I didn't know it was anything like that. So I got to learn something new today. So what's the most amount that you guys have ever killed? What's the greatest amount?
I can't tell you, actually.
Okay.
We stopped keeping track of how many we killed because it conveyed a false impression.
Okay.
If I tell you that we killed 150 in a night, and we have, you're probably impressed. But in order to kill that 150, we probably missed 600.
Yes. I understand. I know exactly. I see exactly what you're saying, though.
On the other hand, if I tell you we killed 2 rats, and we've had nights where that happened, you think that's a pretty bad night. But we only saw 3.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty good night.
That's right.
So add to this my friends in England who have turned it the largest haul that I know of for a 4-hour rat hunt in England is 980 rats.
Good Lord.
And that's with 4 dogs.
Good.
So
It's 100
I
rats
always
an
like
hour
that.
apiece.
Yeah, so that's in a specific location that's not on the street. But so we don't hold a candle to them. But even they're starting to hunt on the street now. Their method of garbage collection has changed, and they're beginning to hunt on the street. And when you do that, your numbers go way down because they're much harder to get, and their escape is much easier.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that for sure. On the you're talking about. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We did a show with Mike Rowe.
Dirty Jobs.
Got to do it.
Yeah. Dirty Jobs or whatever it is. Yeah.
And there was a very well orchestrated TV production, and we wanted to be sure that we got a lot of rats for this TV production. So I paid people to take old fish parts and put them in the trash containers during the afternoon of a very hot day in June. And there's nothing rats like more than some old semi-rotten fish parts. So we had this most of Lower Manhattan salted with each trash container had been liberally salted with bait. So we hoped to bring out the rats. So filming began, and we had a whole crew there, and directors hollering cut and everything else. And we came to one very small dumpster, a half-sized dumpster, if you will, behind the 7th Police Precinct. Now, another little known fact is that there's only one thing that likes donuts more than cops, and that's rats. So if you can find a dumpster behind a precinct, you know you're going to find your donuts, and you know you're going to find rats, and we did. And the technique here is that you shake the dumpster, and the rats run out from a little tiny hole in the bottom, and the dogs pick them off. And we thought, well, this will be entertaining. And well, it's all well and good. So before we had started, just for the theatrics, I told Mike Rowe that it was a dangerous job that we do, and that sometimes if rats can run up your pant leg, trying to get away from the dog, and you certainly don't want them messing with the family jewels. The last thing you need is a wild rat in your diaper.
Yeah.
So we taped his pant legs with duct tape, as we used to do ourselves, actually. And he said to me at that point on camera, he said, well, this is all well, but has it ever happened? I said, well, yeah, it's happened, but not very often. He said, well, that's all right. So we arrive at this dumpster, this little tiny dumpster. We start shaking the dumpster. The rats are just literally one after another pouring out. The dogs are picking them off. And the photographer, the cameraman, is lying on the sidewalk getting shots of the rats as they come out of this little hole in the bottom of the dumpster. At that point, a rat heads up his pant leg and makes it all the way up. And you want to see somebody jump, dance, wiggle, scream, shout. The other cameraman caught most of it. And Mike's comment was, they're never going to let us use this on camera. But they did. They used some of it. But the upshot was, I think we took about 50 or 60 rats out of that little tiny dumpster in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I bet that was something there.
And for all our planning and all our sorting, they just said, this is a night, this is a wrap, and they had more than we wanted. So you never know how many you're going to get or where they're going to come from.
Yeah, so y'all just did that one spot there? Y'all didn't hit the other, the baited sites? That's
What's that?
I said, so y'all only hunted just in that dumpster? Y'all didn't go to the places that you already had baited?
No, we never went.
Oh, okay.
They said they were done, and the guy that had the rat in his pants, he wasn't anxious to go any further. So
he was done with that. That's funny.
Yeah.
So you got any more good stories of stuff like that?
Well, you're gonna get me drunk. I mean, before you go on, and we've been at this for an hour and 29 minutes.
I don't see. I'm getting you to where you loosen up and you start telling us some good stuff.
And oh Lord, there's just so many stories of rat hunting and fox hunting, and of course, fox hunting is all about stories and the characters that comprise fox hunting, recognized fox hunting.
Yes.
They're the night hunters that compete with their dogs, and it's a whole different world than the recognized packs. And of course, fox hunters, I think it's a requirement that if you hunt fox, you drink. it goes with the territory, and it's been said that you wouldn't get on a horse and ride that horse at the fences and stuff that we do unless you were drunk, and I think that's pretty near true. So, it's all of the stories about recognized fox hunting, and those go on almost forever.
Yes, sir. So you've hunted with the English and the American foxhound. What have you?
I have.
What have you found the difference in? What do you like better? What's the difference?
It's different strokes for different folks.
He's great at this.
The pack I bred was not only English, but it was something called Old English. And Old English foxhounds are big of bone. They run a hot line. They prefer a hot line. They will go through anything. They'll go through brush. They won't be put off by anything. They're slower than the American, which is a fine thing if you're like me and you can't ride a horse very well. My idea of riding was to get drunk and hang on.
There you go.
And see how far you could go. So the English is ideally suited for hunting fox. In that country, in stone walls, in gorse hedges, in cultivated fields, and literally hunting in circles or whatever, if you will. And they don't go very fast, but they go forever. They have endurance. Then you come to the Americans, who have this great big country of ours and are hunting fox, but they're points, and a point is the run that you have from the minute the hounds find the fox until the fox goes to ground or they match it. But in America, you have much longer runs for the most part, and particularly as you move toward the west. So an American foxhound will follow a much colder line than the English. They're faster, of course, but that speed is at the price of endurance. And your American foxhound may not go quite the length of time as your English. The good news is that coyote has taken over a goodly percentage of the fox hunting in the United States, and the American foxhound is ideally suited for hunting coyote because of its speed and its size. And they even changed the standard for the American foxhound. They gave it a little more height in the standard to give it longer legs so it would catch coyote. So it might more properly be called an American coyote hound.
Yes, sir.
A friend of mine was hunting coyote in Ontario, and about all they have very few fox in Canada. But he was hunting coyote with an English pack, and he got very frustrated. He wanted to hunt fox. So the English hound has its purpose, and mine were Old English because primarily I like the look of them, and I wanted to show them as well. And we had the only dual registered pack in the world that was registered both with the AKC and with the Masters of Foxhounds Association. Mm. And we had hounds that we had one hound that won the group in the hound group in Madison Square Garden in 1984 that came out of the hunting pack, and he went back the next day after he'd won the group at the garden and hunted with the pack again. So
is that
there was a dual purpose hound.
Yeah.
And but they each have their purpose. And one is ideal in some countries, and the other is ideal in other places. I'm an English fan, but I've got a great respect for the American too.
Yes, sir.
And most of your night hounds are American. They'll run a colder line. They're good on coon. And there are those that'll tell you they got a little better voice. They're kind of nice to listen to. Sometimes the English are a little choppy.
Okay.
Whatever you need, you know.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, it's like I was just always curious, and like I said, a lot of the listeners that and people that we know, they run some foxhound, but a lot of it's crossed into some of their stock. You know, that they run on, whether it's coyotes or wild hogs or whatever, bobcats.
A lot of them have the running walker strain, or they'll have the July strain instead. I believe that's how it works, because they have different strains.
Well, July, you start looking at the walkers, and they've developed the walkers now to the point where that's almost a separate breed. Yeah. They've got what they call a tree and walker coonhound, which is basically, I don't care. It's still, to me, it's still a foxhound. Looks like a foxhound, behaves like a foxhound, probably is. Of course, July is one of the early strains of American foxhound. So they're useful. I am not against breeding in what you need to make yourself a hunting dog, ideal in purebred dogs. When I had my pack of hounds, I had these old English hounds. Nobody liked them. Everybody said, "Oh golly, they're clunky, they're big, they got too much bone, they don't move quick, they don't run a cold trail, they don't do this, they don't do that." And nobody liked my hounds, including the fox hunters. However, I always had a line around the back of the kennel to breed to them.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said, well, you know, if you don't like my hounds, what are you doing here? They said, we like the bloodline, we know the bloodline, and we know what we're going to get, and we know what this dog is going to contribute to this breeding. So while you may not like the hound, you may not like an English hound, still it can contribute to the hound that you're going to use to hunt. And the Masters of Foxhounds recognizes this because they register English foxhounds in one stud book, American foxhounds in another stud book, and crossbred foxhounds in a third stud book.
Yep.
So not only is the interbreeding allowed, it's almost encouraged because you can have the best of both in a crossbred hound. If you're looking for a small lurcher, like I do, you'll crossbreed a Bedlington with a Whippet.
Yes.
The Whippet will give you a little more speed. The Bedlington will give you a little more terrier in the whole makeup, and a little more substance, a little more tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we've been talking for 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 47 seconds about purebred dogs. There's nothing that says that you can't use that purebred dog to enter into and make just exactly what you need, as long as you don't start breeding Labradoodle.
No, and I was going to ask you that is like, what's the importance, or, you know, explain to some of the listeners the importance of keeping these purebred dogs and keeping these pure lines, and even if you cross dogs, the importance of the physical attributes of a dog. But, you know, that, like you said, that the interbreeding with certain breeds, you just mess it up. Their physical capabilities.
It's like breeding mules,
Yeah.
This has happened. We have we have a thing in England called the Lucas Terrier, which is a Sealyham and a Norfolk cross.
Yes.
And I don't think much of Lucas Terriers. They have managed to capture the worst parts of both breeds. But they're breeding them, and they're breeding Lucas to get more Lucas. And that's a completely different concept than breeding a purebred Bedlington to a purebred Whippet, getting a useful dog,
yes,
and calling it quits.
There you go.
Brian Plummer was fancied himself a terrier man, and he was a good terrier man in England. But he wanted the body of a terrier and the nose of a hound, so he bred beagles into his terrier line to produce what's called the Plummer Terrier today. And there again, you're breeding Plumbers to Plumbers. Now they're having some pretty good success as bratters, and I don't have a whole lot of personal experience working over them, so I can't criticize them. But we see a lot more of all the Bedlington boys. In England, it's kind of interesting that the AKC or the UKC breed club, the dog show people, have a club of about 30 or 40 members. The list of the bad guys, the outlaws, hunting at night is over 2,000 in the UK.
Wow.
And they're preserving 4 different lines of purebred Bedlington and being sure that those 4 bloodlines are intact and available, but breeding those out to produce the type of coursing dog or lurcher that they're looking for. And but the key is maintaining the resource of the purebred dog, and I think that's what we want to strive for in this country. So while we're out there thinking, gee, this dog might nick well with this bitch and produce what I want, that's one thing. Breeding Labradoodles is something else.
Yeah, that you're 100,000% correct. That's a big topic in the world that we do as running hog dogs, or actually just meat dogs in general, just dogs that's going to run to catch and put game on the tailgate. Like I said, there's a lot of people that cross them up. And I've caught a lot of shit from people because I will buy and pay a lot of money for a very well-bred, purebred dog and cross it to another one that's a very well purebred dog of 2 different breeds. You know what I mean? And come up with something that I like, something that works for me. But I'm not going to breed just any mutt to another one, because then that's all you're breeding is shit. It's never ending. There
again, the only reason you get a purebred dog is because you want to know what it's going to look like and how it's going to behave.
Yes.
Other than that, what's the point?
But that's right.
So for me, that's what it's all about. Whether I'm hunting or whether I'm at a dog show or whether I'm judging dogs. And by the way, one thing that we should have mentioned is that if you hunt and breed, if you go out and work over it, if you spend time knowing how and why it functions, you sure as hell judge them differently in the dog show ring.
Oh, yeah.
Things that don't matter to my colleagues matter a whole lot to me.
Yes, sir.
Short hocks on a dachshund doesn't mean much to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But from my point of view, it's those short hocks that allow the dog to shift into reverse to get out of the way of the quarry that's attacking it. And they do that all the time, but without short hocks, they can't do it. So it's 2 words out of the standard, but to me, it's important.
Yes, sir.
And that plays over time and time again. So no matter where you are, the principles are still the same.
Yes, sir. What is the most important thing that you look for as far as confirmation? And I know this still is a broad question, but like, what is the let's do the main things that you look for in confirmation on these working and hunting dogs when you're judging them in the show ring, because like I said, a lot of people don't know what to really look for as far as confirmation in a dog and what it should be.
That, my friend, is an impossible question.
That's why I said it's such a broad thing. I know I don't know how to put it.
You can't. There's a written standard for each breed. Some of them are very detailed, some less so. Some of them have what's called a scale of points that you can be a moron, which many of us dog judges are, by the way. But the scale of points will tell you what's important. And I was just writing an article this afternoon on English foxhound, and in that standard, which was written by 2 drunks, both of whom were friends of mine, it gives 20 points to the feet, and right on the money, it's the most important thing on a foxhound.
Yes.
A tight foxhound foot is all important, and it's the first thing you look for, followed by great, big, strong front legs. And some dear young lady asked me one day what the 4 quarters of an English foxhound should look like, and I said, well, basically they should resemble fucking fence posts.
Yeah.
Now, I wish I hadn't been quite so close to the public address system when I said that, but there are several thousand people now who know that the correct answer to that question is fucking fence post.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking
about. So with each breed, based on its function, you have a different priority. If we're talking about border terriers, the spanability, the ability to compress its chest, to get itself into and out of tight places is all important. It's the be all and end all. But there's a different thing for every breed. So you can't generalize. There are more than 200 breeds.
Yes.
At this point, I know a little something about half a dozen of them.
I got you. That's why I said I knew it was such a broad question. I didn't know how to really state what I was what I want to know. But I mean that pretty much is. I guess
there's always a priority, and the majority of breeds allow the judges to pick their own priority.
Okay, that's what I mean there. I guess probably.
And judges get reputations depending on what you do. We have something we call tooth fairies, and the tooth fairy thinks that the dentition is important. And they spend half an hour looking through the dog's mouth to see if it's got all its teeth. Others of us aren't quite so fussy about that. We have headhunters that want to see a pretty dog, a dog that pleases them, that has a handsome head. We have people who are movement nuts. They think that moving dog is a good dog. When in actuality, you want breed type and soundness together. And from my point of view, if I see a dog that really fulfills the standard, and maybe it's not the soundest dog in the ring, but it is the typiest, the one that looks most like the breed standard, then that's the one I'm going to reward. You can have a sound dog of any breed. You can have a sound mutt. To have a good typey terrier or dachshund or whatever is worth its weight in gold. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's the best I can do.
No, that does. It puts it in perspectives, like, because each judge has their own particulars that they like. That's kind of what I was after. I'm one of those people. I like to look at a dog's front legs and their feet. That's that's what I like to look at.
But it's their experience that's going to make the difference. If you've had a dachshund stuck underground for 3 days, you're not going to put up in the show ring one with a great big round chest, because you know that sucker's going to get stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody else, they like that. They look at the development, look at the forechest on that dog. Isn't that wonderful? So that's why we have different judges and different dog shows. It's all the same standard, but each judge brings their own experience, if any, to the ring.
Oh my goodness! So, what do I know? We've had you tied up for a pretty good while now. What events do you have coming up or any that you would like to share with some of the listeners if they might be interested in attending?
Say that again?
I said, what events do you have coming up that we could tell some of the listeners in case they want to come attend some of the events?
Well, the hound shows are over. The hound shows are usually late spring and so forth, but the Virginia Foxhound Show draws between 300 and 500 foxhounds. And it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of hounds.
That you don't want to miss. In October, we have the Montgomery County Kennel Club, which is a dog show of all terriers. And it's usually about 2,000 entries of all the terrier breeds that you can think of from all over the world. They bring dogs in from other countries for it. So that's a great thing. And we have the National Earth Dog Test the following day. So the dogs that parade around the ring and look beautiful on Sunday get to actually go down and get dirty on Monday.
Nice.
We want them to work too. That's in early October. That's always something. And that's another is the Northgate Terrier Trial, which is one of the bigger trials run by the Jack Russell Terrier Club, and that's here in New Jersey, and that's terriers doing everything, kind of an old-fashioned type thing with, they've got confirmation classes, they've got really serious terrier racing that everybody likes. The track is always lined, and there's a certain amount of financial interchange that goes on. Not that that would be legal or anything, you understand?
Yes.
But it's just a weekend that is well worth attending. And this year, particularly, I'm looking forward to having fun that weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. And if you're in the Northeast, You can hit the Northgate Terrier Trial on Saturday, a Border Terrier specialty show within 20 minutes away on Sunday. They have a very, very good judge that Border Terrier thing, and another dog show on Monday. So the whole Labor Day week is taken up with dogs at work and dogs at play. And then, of course, that same Labor Day weekend, we have a new Yacht Terrier fixture in the Midwest. Being run, and it promises to be just as good as the other one that we have. So
Yes,
there's always something to do.
gotcha. Well, it sounds like a lot of stuff to do on Labor Day weekend. That's for sure. I'm gonna have to get my ass loaded up and come and go to some of these events. I haven't been to any terrier events in going on 2 years now. We've been so busy with other stuff, so. But they are fun. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I've gone from the terrier events to the hog bays, and I think it's only right you should come in the opposite direction.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, you have you got anything else on this stuff you would like to add, Mr. Richard?
No, I'm unfortunately I'm still sober, so my length of dialogue is just about expanded. But we think of something, we'd be happy to have you come back.
Yeah, I mean, like just whatever. I mean, like I said, if there's anything you want to get out there, just get with it. Tell us. You got some good stories, or if you just want to rant and rave, hell, we don't care.
Well, if you get me started on the rant and raving, we'll get kicked off the air.
Oh man!
So let's leave it there for this trip. And,
yeah, we'll do it again. We'll definitely do it again. Because I'd like to get into some of the stuff about like dog health care, what to look for in puppies and different things like that. So
well, I had a woman that asked me to come and grade her litter of otter hounds, and it's in amongst some of the dog breeders, it's fashionable to have somebody rate or place your litter. I'm doing a litter of Irish Terriers on Friday, and I'm using my extreme knowledge and wisdom to take 8-week-old puppies and try to predict what they're going to become when they grow up. And of course, you're always wrong. I don't award puppies very often at dog shows because inevitably 3 years later, somebody brings back this absolute mess and says, "Oh, do you remember Fluffy? You gave her best of breed when she was a puppy."
Yeah.
I don't like that happening, but they asked me to grade a litter of otter hounds, and there were 10 puppies. Hounds tend to have large litters. And I said, well, I can't grade your litter, but I can tell you which dog I'd have for which use, depending upon what I was going to do with it. And the one that I picked as the best one for show was not the best one that I would have picked for hunting, for a number of reasons. So, grading puppies is a crapshoot no matter how you do it. And there are a lot of people who are better at it than I am, but I try, and we can talk about it sometime.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of those deals where I've heard so many different ways from people that, and they're not very successful handlers themselves, you know. So I'm like, I want to talk to somebody who has a lot of experience with it, and I know our listeners they want to hear that as well. So, like I said, we'll get with Nate and we'll set it up, and we'll do another segment. We'll do a part 2 to this, and I'll dig down and get some questions and get him to send some to you, and we'll go from there with it.
Glad to do it, and good talking to you tonight.
Yes, sir. We will be seeing you at an event soon, some damn where. I'm going to come see you.
Might have to go to New Jersey. Let the
There you
rednecks
go.
that far north.
I need diggers, man. You come and help me dig.
We can do that.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, we'd love it.
Okay, we'll look forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. You have a good night.
See you, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
That was a treat for a lot of listeners out there. I know you guys. Yeah. You can research Mr. Reynolds. You can look up Richard Reynolds, the Rat Society, RATS. It's Riders Alley Trenchers Fed Society. What they did, I'm going to lay this out there so you can understand. Picture this. You're in an alley on a cold, wet, rainy night in New York. There's police sirens, ambulances going all over the place. You got this homeless person over here under the cardboard, and ain't nothing wrong with being homeless. If that's your thing, you got to be PC around here. So he's under the cardboard box over here sleeping. Just picture this. He's sleeping. It's cold. All of a sudden, 800 grams of actual horrible gnashing teeth and claws of fucking terror jumps out of the sewer, bites this bastard on the toe. Bam, he's got rabies. No, it's Legionnaire's disease. Now he's fucking dying from everything. Da-da-da-da-da. Boom, there's a light. Not like Batman, but Ratman. Jumps out of the bushes. Here comes Richard Reynolds. He's got his little skull cap on. Jumps out, unleashes the killers that weigh 7 pounds for all 3 dogs, and just tears shit up. That's
no
who
harm
he is.
done to the homeless.
No. I mean, other than what the rat did. That's who Mr. Reynolds is. I've got to meet him at dog shows and dog events. He has given me some harsh critiquing on my dogs. He's like, I don't know what the fuck you were trying to do, son, but okay. But it works. And that's he knows, that's the thing. Yes. He knows it works. But I've also got some of the best feedback on some of that dog we had, King. We carried him to Kentucky and he won, I don't know how many ribbons, suitability for every kind of animal you could work in an actual show. And he was a real deal hog dog. The one thing I do like about the terrier folks is every dog there, it will work. It's not just there at that event. I promise you. You go turn them loose and you're going to see, and it has blown my mind several times, where you will see several ladies out there that are anywhere from, in their late 50s to early 70s, got gray hair, glasses, they're well dressed, and they're out there sicking their dog on live game, getting with it. It's awesome. So if you can go to a terrier event, I mean, you don't have to be a terrier owner or none of that. Just go check it out. It's
one of the easier ones to watch, and usually typically because there's always something to be done.
Yeah, there's constantly something to be done. They do,
because there's several events
like at the hog bay. I love going to the hog bay, and everybody knows that. But you got the hog bay. That's why Uncle Earl's, I think is so big, because you got several other things. You got food, and you got vendors selling all this stuff. And there you might have, in Tyler in October, we'll have a hog bay going. You'll have the coon treeing going. You'll have a high jump. You'll have blood tracking. Then they'll have they'll have the retrieving, where they're retrieving quail. You'll have the tunnel system. You got all these events going on, and you'll have them going simultaneously. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 at one time, so you get spread out, and there's something to do. It's never just focused on one thing all the time. It's about the full roundness of the dogs. And Mr. Reynolds has been awesome to be, a judge and stuff like that. He's a character, and he's somebody that we really need to have in the dog world, not just in the terrier side of it or the show side of it, but I feel like he needs to be more involved in the hunt dog world, like the meat dogs like we run. And the reason is, like he was saying, if you've got these certain breed of dogs and you breed them, your chances of success are higher. But if you take and do what some breeders are doing, like take a Boston Terrier and breeding it to an old English Bulldog, and you make these little gremlin dogs, they're not healthy.
I think a lot of Richard's point is like with confirmation makes workability.
Yeah, it does a lot of time. Yeah, like you said, and that's the consistency of a purebred dog. And I'm not a purist by no means, but I am. So
I got some purebreds, but
no, we
mutt
got
enthusiasts.
We don't have some. You stop and think how many we've had.
Some just means more than 3.
We have a lot.
Yeah, I'm just saying
to
some
make
means
our
more than 3.
crossbreeds.
Yeah,
We don't crossbreeds. Very seldom has that ever happened. So I mean, technically, I guess there's a purist in there somewhere. Because I don't mind having a purebred dog and running it if it works and it does its job. And true enough, usually when those dogs are performers, they really shine. But I also feel there's certain times where that breed lacks a little something that I'm looking for, and bam, that's what we cross something to. So, but anyway, check out Mr. Reynolds. He's been on National Geographic, Vice Channel, New York Times.
several other podcasts.
Like there's, he's been on. I don't care about the podcast.
Oh yeah, I was just saying.
I'm excited.
Oh yes,
I'm excited.
It's an honor to have him here.
So, but like he's been on a lot of stuff, man. And so, and those Bedlingtons, those are those dogs that look like they got a little alien head almost, and they got long ears like little poof balls on the ends of them. Those are some bad ass little dogs. I think I've got to have one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. They're like a Whippet poodle looking dog.
I got
to do that.
Now the Whippet Bedlington, what we need to do is keep Silky, and if
I'm just gonna send him Silky.
Yes,
he said he liked the smaller lurchers. There you go, bam, done.
No.
He don't like.
We get the Bedlington and get his male dog to stud to Silky, and then we talk, because that'd be what we needed in the end to build a bigger.
I don't want that style dog. That's not what I want. I don't want a Silky, a Bedlington crossbar. That's not what I want. I just want. She needs to do something.
Well, we ain't gonna be able to work the Bedlington.
I'll get my own Bedlington from him. I just want a straight one, so that way I can see. And then we'll cross it with a game dog. Bam. That's it. That's how you do it. So, anyway, we really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. We're steadily rolling, picking up steam. We're going to keep pushing on. We're putting out. We'll start putting out more videos if I can get Nathan to do it. Him and Carter Schultz, they got this thing where they don't like to put all the videos out. Me and Ryan Rankin's got to stay on all the time. And neither one of them agree with us. So both of them draw. So thank y'all so much for listening. And we'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you. Hope y'all enjoyed that episode. Stay tuned for our new episodes every Monday and Wednesday. For questions, advertising, or just to chat, email DixieDoggers01@gmail.com.